Everywhere, as far as the eye can see, we have supply chain going on, which is just fantastic. 6 years, and I'm not sure if anybody's told you the number, but we hit 3,000 this year. So there are 3,000 of us here, and as Glenn said, the largest gathering anywhere in the world of supply chain professionals. So thank you very, very much for being part of it. What I would like to do here, and I'm going to do it very quickly, is I have 30 minutes before I bring Richard up on stage and talk to him about his implementation. But I've got 30 minutes to give you the state of the union and a little bit of the state of the future of supply chain applications at Oracle. And I'm hoping to be able to do 3 demo videos during that 30 minutes. So let's get going. As Glenn indicated, and I'm sure you all know, we are at a point in time of unprecedented change. You know, whether it's due to the disruptive new technologies that are coming on, whether it's due to the new business models that everyone is trying to adapt to, whether it's the new changes in IT that we are adapting, the businesses and the supply chains that underpin them are going through a rapid digital transformation. And as you can see here, half of the CEOs interviewed in this survey believe that their industry is going to drastically change just in the next 2 or 3 years. That said, 3/4 of the people who actually need to implement those changes, people like yourselves, are not quite so sure as to whether they are able to do that. Now, whether that's due to the siloed nature of the existing systems, whether that's due to the inability of existing systems to uptake the new models and the new capabilities of technology, or whether it's just a fundamental inability for process change, it's just not working for many companies. And we think we need a new approach. That being, leverage the innovative processes and the technology advancements that are now being delivered on the cloud to transform your supply chain. And it's really that combination, especially in light of the new disruptive technologies and things that are coming online every day now. It's that combination of innovation, technology, cloud, and transformation that is going to keep your business competitive going forward. And that's what we are trying to address with the supply chain cloud. Built from the ground up. We took a blank piece of paper, and from the ground up, we built a robust set of applications specifically for the cloud, specifically for the digital transformation that is going on. So wide, broad solutions, broad process flows, specifically digitally enabled, leveraging all the architectural flexibility that new tools that are available now for business rules definition, and web services completely surrounding the product to ensure extensibility and integration capabilities. We will continue to measure ourselves from a user experience against iPhone and Android apps. We want our applications to be as easy to use as what you have on your phone right now. Initially, full capabilities around discrete manufacturing, assembled order, configured order, make to stock, and the like. A new approach to demand and supply planning. And again, I hope you go to the exhibit hall and take a look at some of the new planning applications. I'll demo a couple of those here in the videos. A true life cycle PLM with the introduction of our innovative innovation management product, which is socially enabled and listens to what's going on as to what your customers and your competition are saying about your product, such that the next product you put into the design cycle ideally is much more successful than past products. An omni-channel order-to-cash, order management capability to deal with the multi-to-multi problem, different sources of demand and many different sources of fulfillment as people are doing the transformation to the cloud. And lastly, but certainly not least, taking our already best-in-class transportation management and global trade management cloud and adding to that what I announced last year at this time is our acquisition of Logfire as a warehouse management cloud, the best-in-class cloud warehouse management now integrated with the rest of our logistics solutions. But it doesn't stop there. We have now come out with release 13 of the products. And in fact, I think most of you are probably aware. If not, let me tell you, we are moving into quarterly release cycles for our cloud. And we're going to be coming out every 3 months with new updates for you to add innovation, to add more capabilities to the instance, to the provisioned capabilities that you have. Now, one quick comment, we spent a lot of time really trying to teeth gnashing and figuring out what we wanted to call these releases since we made the decision to move to quarterly, and figuring out what should it be, 13.1.5.0 or what it should be. And we finally, after much thought, came up with A, B, C, and D. So where we are right now is 17D. And the next release, can anybody tell me what it's going to be called? 18A. There you go. There you go. So it's going to be year and quarter. And after all that work, we came up with that, and I guess simplicity is best. So, so with 17D, we continue to provide you new innovation and more capabilities. Again, all available to look at in the pavilion. So new supply chain collaboration capability, new end-to-end quality module, maintenance and enterprise asset management capability, more integration with CPQ from an overall quote to cash, full process flow, adding more depth, and a substantial change from our demand and supply planning capabilities with the introduction of S&OP, demand management, and supply planning. And I'm very, very happy to tell you that as of this morning, Oracle Corporation, for our hardware business, is now live on these set of planning applications. We have migrated off our on-prem, and we are now, as of today, operating these new planning, demand and supply planning applications for our own internal business. Also added full lot and serial genealogy, traceability, composition, and population of an install base such that you now know as designed, as built, as shipped, and as maintained configuration status. And then a multitude of new functionality across the board, new navigation, new UI associated, a shopping cart-like experience associated with purchase requisitioning, and then mobility, mobility, mobility that will always continue. And looking forward, continuing to add functionality. So where we are right now with 17D, and continuing to provide capabilities for our discrete manufacturing customers, continuing to provide capabilities around medical device and healthcare, beginning to move, and you've been telling us that you want us to move into some of the other operations and some of the other methods of manufacturing, and we're committed to doing so. And so we will be moving into project manufacturing capability very soon, and you'll see functionality to support that coming out, followed by process manufacturing, as well as a continued commitment to distribution and globalizations coming out with support for Brazil in a few months, support for all the different countries in the world where everyone can operate supply chains and manufacturing plants wherever you see fit to do so. That said, this is no longer your father's supply chain. We need to be thinking about new and different ideas, and we are, and you should want us to be doing that. The old traditional view of supply chain has changed, and it must change going forward. So we're doing a lot from a technical perspective as well. Obviously, continuing to add more web services, more REST services, but more mobility, chatbots, IoT, artificial adaptive intelligence, machine learning, those sorts of things. And finally, blockchain. This is probably about the last I will say of blockchain in this presentation. There are demos and there are things that you can take a look at. We envision that blockchain for supply chain is probably track and trace is the first point of reference for our view. My colleagues in other parts of Oracle are moving more rapidly ahead in the blockchain space. Whereas we're focusing more on machine learning and IoT integration and things like that. But the most logical initial application coming out from the supply chain view around blockchain is a track and trace sort of a capability, of maintaining lot and serial integrity, appropriate coverage for gray market pharmaceuticals, and covering the entire, from a food perspective, farm to fork and all that to validate and the authenticity of the goods. And I am very, very pleased to tell you that having launched this, our core products around supply chain, that being order management, manufacturing, and the planning modules, approximately 21 months ago, in April of 2016, there are now more than 1,800 customers, including yourselves, who are on the transformational journey to the cloud. So thank you very much for that. Now that said, there are changes going on. Many people have said that this is the fourth industrial revolution, the digital revolution, that these changes and these new techniques must be adopted, or else someone else will adopt these and run you over with these, if you will. So looking at some of these new and different things, we have oriented ourselves to being able to provide that to you and provide value to you to be able to take advantage of these new technologies for your business. Here's a quote from Accenture. This is their forecast as to what you think it can be. I think, subject to question as to whether the growth rate will be what it is, but I don't think there's any question the amount of change that will take place. Now, when we look at adaptive intelligence relative to supply chain, it really is a large, large change. That, whereas typically we've built ourselves around our own intuition and around humans doing things and what they think is correct based on their experience, but we now have new capabilities, new mathematical models, new algorithms that, based on actual rigor of statistics and the like, can prove capabilities and can move things forward. When it comes to supply chain, I view it as really from how adaptive intelligence, machine learning can most benefit the supply chain space. It comes down to three areas: the ability to prescribe, the ability to predict, and enhancing the ability to optimize. How can we prescribe activities that need to be done that a human couldn't have figured out? How can we predict the future based on historical trends and external information? And then how can we continue to optimize more and more and obtain more and more productivity from our supply chain operations? And it really is the perfect confluence, the perfect storm now of being able to have the compute power necessary to do this, the access to huge amounts of data, not only from your shop floor, but externally, and from things like data as a service, and then the evolution of the models that can now support them. We look at this as being kind of a three-step process, and it's rather simple, and it's not the approach competition has taken. We have built applications. I announced the first three of these at last year's show. But unlike our competition, unlike what SAP is trying to do with whatever the hell Leonardo is that all of this is built underneath a big data and IoT analytics platform. But that's where everyone else has stopped. They basically have said, here's our IoT platform. Go hire yourself a bunch of data scientists and go at it. We think the right approach is let us hire the data scientists, and you as business users can take advantage of that, which is why we have built applications, form-fitted applications for supply chain functions, not just, here's your toolkit. So we have built asset monitoring for preventive maintenance, production monitoring for manufacturing, fleet to geofence every shipment that you make and feed that information back into transportation management. And then service monitoring for connected assets. So that's step one of getting towards this journey. Step two is taking those IoT applications and extending the digital thread across all of the different functions of the supply chain, which typically are extremely siloed. But every one of these has a voice. And every one of these voices needs to be heard by the other parts of the operation. Because all of them need to be talking and all of them need to be listening to each other. And it's the combination of all these voices together through the digital thread that really enables the power of what then happens with step three, which is around the machine learning. But what we have done around that second step is now enable the digital thread in our applications. So these IoT applications absorbing the supply chain data model and creating integration such that without human interaction directly out of the box, being able to provide IoT alerts into the supply chain applications. So when a service issue arises for one of your field deployed assets for a customer, the system automatically sending a service request into the engagement cloud. For one of your internal assets, the system automatically sending a request for a maintenance work order directly into the maintenance cloud, sending production exceptions directly into manufacturing, sending quality events directly into the new quality module. All of this, tying all this together, talking together, enabling the digital thread. And then lastly, but most importantly, applying the machine learning to it. Specifically in this case for predictive maintenance, anomaly detection, identifying those anomalies that have occurred in the past before a failure pattern exists, and being able to launch that forward to identify those scenarios and identify health predictions such that you can fix the item before it ever breaks down again. So to demo video number one, let's take a look at that.
In this video, we will use the Oracle IoT Asset Monitoring Cloud to demonstrate the advanced analytics features. Business users use the built-in dashboard for rich real-time visualization of their assets. Selecting one of the KPIs from the KPI toolbar switches the context of information in the dashboard. Users can easily customize the KPI toolbar to display KPIs most relevant to their business. Users can also create their own KPIs using the simple KPI creation tool. Custom KPIs are of three types: computed, sensor, and code. Sensor value KPIs allow real-time aggregation of sensor values across a number of assets of the same type. Computed KPIs allow defining statistical expressions that can return numeric or Boolean values aggregated over longer time periods. Finally, the code option for creating custom KPI provides advanced developers an option to create highly customized KPIs with proprietary logic by customizing boilerplate Java or Python code. Business users can use built-in visualizations to get highly detailed information and analytics for individual assets. Detecting anomalies in sensor data is extremely simple for business users using the anomaly creation tools. Point-based anomaly detection is simply a statistical test to detect outliers in sensor data that looks for deviations from standard mean computed for a baseline time window. Pattern-based anomaly detection allows business users to visually identify anomalous patterns in historical sensor data. These patterns are approximated using machine learning for detection in streaming sensor data. For proactive identification of asset issues, business users can easily create predictions without the need for any knowledge of data analytics and machine learning. The built-in predictions creation tool uses AutoML, a data scientist in a box approach, to auto-select algorithms and hyperparameters. Predictions can be for continuous values of KPIs, e.g. predict the average temperature of an asset after 24 hours. Predictions can be categorical, e.g. will average temperature of an asset exceed 300 degrees Fahrenheit in 7 days. To optimize the machine learning model, contextual datasets, e.g. maintenance information, can be linked to allow for improved scoring. Contextual datasets can be easily linked from NoSQL or RDBMS tables. This allows contextualization of analytics using data from other enterprise applications such as ERP or service management. Anomalies and predictions can be used to drive rules that can further trigger business workflows, such as creation of predictive maintenance work orders and spare parts inventory management, among others. And finally, the main dashboard provides a consolidated view of insights across all assets.
So that's IoT, asset monitoring, talking with the maintenance cloud. And again, we view this as just another feature function. Machine learning is just going to be a natural thing for our applications going forward. Machine learning is just one more of those features that you get with these applications. Another example, segment optimization. Adaptive intelligent segment optimization, something that's typically from a planning perspective, the customer segmentation and supply chain segmentation you do has to date always been up here in the planner's head, based on previous knowledge of what's gone on. Well, now it's a case that we can actually learn from what's gone on in the database, how things have been segmented in the past, what other external factors are going on during this, and the system will actually recommend groupings of customers that might fit a given segment and appropriately should be grouped that way, that might be different than what the human had recommended. And then pushing that into our planning system to allow a simulation to be run to validate that. So better forecasting, better planning, less reliance on humans who will retire at some point in time. Another area in transportation that we're working on for machine learning. Again, as I said, geofencing and knowing every single one of where your shipments are and where they're going and what they've done. So knowing what happened when you used a given route the last time. Knowing what happened when you used an existing route the last 1,000 times, and all the routes thousands and thousands of times, and pushing that information back into our transportation optimization engine such that it gets smarter and smarter and smarter every time it runs. And then lastly, new product introduction. Something that has always been just the great unknown for most companies. How is this new product going to do? What's going to be the demand? And even more problematic, am I going to have the supply in place to support that? So a new area that we're looking at here that will evolve between our innovation management product and our planning products to actually learn about the previous launches that you've done. And at the attribute level of a given new product that you've introduced, and correlating other factors and other situations, other pieces of external data as to what was going on that will provide you a much better picture of how this product will come out such that you can maximize profitability and meet the supply that the demand dictates. So let's take a quick look at a demo in this space.
Let's begin with innovation management, where the product planner reviews new product ideas and narrows down on a new tablet with holographic capability. He then estimates baseline business plan, investment needs, and seeks project approval for this product concept. Engineering then prepares an initial product concept design with its key features. The planner reviews forecast estimates based on analysis of this concept in the Demand Management Cloud application. The AI Planning Advisor alerts him of 3 things. Based on the forecast provided by machine learning algorithms, the AI Planning Advisor recommends increasing the forecast for the holographic tablet by 35%. The algorithms provide more details on the recommendations, such as which attributes are key contributors to the forecast, and also gives a 70% predicted forecast accuracy. He can also choose to review the recommendations in greater detail. The Npi Analysis Dashboard provides detailed analysis, compares different forecasts side by side, shows confidence intervals, and the contribution of features to the forecast. The results reaffirms his own learnings, and so the planner clicks on Accept Recommendation. The second alert suggests that for another new product, the AS35017, which was recently launched, the actual demand is higher than forecast. The demand planner drills to more details to review this. Specifically, the recommendation is to increase forecast by 25%. The planner tries to understand more details and so clicks on Adjust Forecast. The analytics reveal that there is a spike in demand much earlier than expected. The planner decides to adjust the forecast, but leverages a library of forecast profiles that machine learning provides based on all previous launches, which the planner can select through Actions. The planner selects the early spike forecast profile based on experience of previous launches and applies this profile for the AS35017. The planner also has the ability to simulate the demand by applying different profiles and reviewing the results first. The final shipment forecast is now revised and incorporates early spike in its future impact. The planner can now close this alert. The final alert recommends adjusting the launch period of the AS35005. The planner drills into these details. The AI Planning Advisor suggests that aligning the launch to upcoming back-to-school season can increase the demand. The analytics on the left show the details of the simulation to delay launch. On accepting the recommendation, the final shipments forecast will be equal to the recommended launch forecast. From these scenarios, you can see the contextual analytics and specific recommendations in the Product Advisor help product planners successfully launch new products and improve the revenue potential.
So again, machine learning, adaptive intelligence embedded into the standard screens. What you saw was innovation management and planning, the standard products, but machine learning becoming part and parcel of those deliveries. One last area to cover before I finish up here, and that be another announcement that we are making this week is the availability of our digital twin from an IoT perspective. And it's really about the ability to monitor and make decisions about the pieces of equipment, about the actual thing in its context without actually having to touch the machine. So what we've done is made available a digital twin capability that provides a past and a current and even a future state of that given asset. And all information from a 360-degree view of things with business context associated with it. And most importantly, from that digital twin, be able to do what-ifs, things that you would never want to do to the piece of equipment to begin with. Set vibrations to go off the scale, set heat levels such that you would never want to actually test the machine at those levels, but do simulations via the digital twin to learn from it, such that you can then take advantage from a predictive maintenance and the like going forward. And the other thing that we are announcing this week is the addition of augmented reality on top of that. So really enabling a view from the digital twin by looking through whatever AR vehicle that you want at the actual piece of equipment and getting context associated with that. So let's give that a quick demo as well.
In this video, we will demonstrate Oracle's capabilities to support the digital twin together with augmented reality. Let's start with Oracle IoT Asset Monitoring Cloud. Clicking on an asset brings out the digital twin view. Let us drill down into a sub-assembly power plant and visualize the real-time data stream. Similarly, we can drill into other sub-assemblies like this hydraulic pump to get a comprehensive view of the asset. And you can look at the future predicted values just as easily by sliding right on this bar. Under the hood, IoT Cloud deploys auto best fit predictive algorithms to generate these predicted values. This is the composition view of the forklift asset that shows the subcomponents and associated sensors. This forklift lives in the context of an enterprise. Oracle IoT Cloud brings in this dimension by fetching data from the ERP system using the pre-built integrations. This forklift is assigned to Chris Gilbert, and the depreciation useful life is 6.8 years. The process is complete. With 89% confidence, IoT Cloud can predict that the cause of the failure is going to be a wiring short. Using the pre-built integrations as part of its digital thread feature, Oracle IoT Cloud automatically creates a maintenance work order with all the appropriate data, sensor values, asset information, and so on, so that the technician has sufficient information to triage and assign the issue. Using Digital Twin, Oracle IoT Cloud makes the end-to-end business flow easy, from an interactive model of the asset to predicting future sensor values to predicting failure events to forecasting the most probable diagnostic code to recommending a resolution code to automating the action of the service ticket creation. A natural extension of the Digital Twin is the use of augmented reality or AR. Through the use of specialized goggles, or more typically, the camera associated with an iPad, the image of the real world can be merged with the information from the digital twin. As the user looks at the asset, signs appear on the top. And as the user approaches an asset, a display shows IoT sensor data, process data, and contextual data, for example, maintenance. And now we see the data related to this forklift asset. By clicking on the Digital Twin button, we can swap between the Augmented Reality view and the regular Digital Twin view. And you can also see other tabs such as ERP data, maintenance data, and manuals just as easily. So there you have it, the Oracle IoT Cloud plus the Digital Twin plus augmented reality, delivering the best possible capabilities and user experience.
All right, so that's my 30 minutes of a fire hose, I guess. But all these things and more are available to see in demos in the pavilion. Please do take a look. It is a brave new world. It is the fourth industrial revolution. It is the digital revolution. There are those, and I call myself among them, that I believe our industry is going to change more in the next 5 years than it has in the last 50. And it's things like this that are going to make those changes. So again, I think with the focus we have on the cloud, with the focus on disruptive technologies and the digital revolution, and focus on all those technological elements underneath, I think Oracle is uniquely capable of bringing you tomorrow's supply chain today. Now I would like to spend a few minutes with Richard Shidler, who is CIO of the wonderful company, one of our great customers who is on this cloud journey. So let me invite Richard to come on up to the stage. say I'm a big fan of a lot of those brands. And I hope everybody noticed. Well, we have nondescript bottles of water up here. Richard did it right. Brought it with him. So, the wonderful company. I mean, we saw some great background on it. What a great name. How did you come up with a wonderful name like the Wonderful Company?
The name is definitely a brainchild of a wife of our owner. She is definitely the marketing genius behind the company. A lot of the products have been wonderful for a very long time, whether it's Wonderful Halos, Palm Wonderful, Wonderful Pistachios, Wonderful Almonds. But we changed the name of the company probably two and a half years ago now to match the brands.
Yeah, very good. Again, pistachios, almonds, I have them in my house right now. So let's get down to business. You have an existing e-business suite implementation, which I understand was deployed in about 2006. Can you tell me a little bit about that implementation? You know, what modules have been deployed? How long did it take? Any other key facts?
It's actually a little more complicated than that. We have 6 EBS implementations in total and 1 JD Edwards implementation. Some people like to collect stamps or ERP, or we collect ERPs instead. I'm not saying it was a grand plan, but that's the way it worked out, is for each of the individual businesses, we actually did separate ERP implementations historically. We'll probably work on fixing that going forward. But the implementations were all done over a period of time, and they were just like any other ERP implementation back then, very long, very painful. And they were the first ERP implementation for our businesses at the time, moving from much smaller systems to a big ERP. So there were lots of challenges associated with that, as you would expect as well.
Yep, okay. So many different e-business suite implementations and 1 JDE. How, I presume just from what I'm seeing and experience that you've gone through some rapid growth, some rapid diversification into many different brands. How have those implementations been able to support you during that time?
EBS has been great. It's definitely a workhorse. I think one of the big challenges we have is over that period of time we've gone through a massive number of acquisitions, significant growth, and the simple reality of a product like EBS is the amount of effort it takes to make that change over time, do upgrades, et cetera, did definitely provide challenges. And it's one of the things that got us where we are today, is simply that the way we're doing business today is very different than the way we were doing business when those implementations were first done.
Yep.
And that definitely created plenty of challenges.
All right.
Opportunities, sorry.
Opportunities,
Yeah.
There you go. So you were faced with a choice, one that I think many people in this audience have faced or are facing going forward, which is what to do next, right? Do you go through an upgrade of the existing products? Do you consider a re-implementation? As you say, your business has changed. Mm-hmm. Do you consider a re-implementation of eBusiness Suite with cloud further off on the horizon, or go straight to the cloud? How did you evaluate that? How did the wonderful company make the decision to go forward with cloud?
It's actually a fun question. I was just joking with John that the core of a lot of that decision was made about a year ago. But the way it happened is we first were looking at doing a complete re-implementation of EBS. That was the objective. The business had changed, and we felt like if we redid the implementation from scratch, we could largely adapt it to help work with the business much better. We started looking at where the cloud products were, where the development was coming, and we actually went through a period of time where we were going to do a hybrid implementation, actually do financials, et cetera, in the cloud, and all the supply chain applications still on premise. And it was literally a year ago, probably today or tomorrow, that we had some of the final conversations based on where the product was development-wise, that we really thought we could make everything work in the cloud environment. And that's where we sit.
Very good. See,
It was a long decision, and there were a lot of decision points along the way, but that's how we got there.
see, but the networking that you did here and talking with Oracle as well as other customers a year ago,
Very true.
helped a lot with that decision. So what, do you have a defined set of benefits that you anticipate being able to achieve by going to the cloud?
Well, I think as we were looking at it, just the sheer amount of development dollars that you all are spending on the products, the advancements, not dissimilar to what you just showed, we know the benefits that those will drive, and actually some of those were, I think, some of the first customers using already, getting ready to go live with some of the planning applications, maintenance, et cetera. But the other big thing for us was with our legacy ERP environment, most customers, I think if you said you would do an implementation every 5 years, that would be pretty frequent to do an upgrade in a legacy environment. I thought about this the other day. In the new world with the quarterly releases that you mentioned earlier, that's essentially in that 5-year period, us going through 20 mini upgrades and getting all that functionality to help the business that historically we would not have been able to give the business to use.
Yep.
And the rate, not to be a commercial here, but frankly the rate at which that development is happening and the functionality we're getting, it would be a mistake not to be able to deliver that to the business.
Great, very good. So where are you? So you've accepted the challenge, you're the CIO, you're driving this project or these projects. Where are you at in the transformation? How are things going?
As with all ERP implementations, it's a lot of fun. No, truth be told, it's going great. It isn't without its challenges. Those definitely exist. And some of them are technical challenges. But frankly, our biggest challenges, as most people that have gone through this before I'm sure know, is the business process change, the people change, and also a real strong desire to move towards standard functionality, not do customizations, et cetera. As far as where we are today, we have migrated OTM from on-premise to the cloud, and that is live. We have some very specific platform as a service development that we needed to do a little bit early, so we actually did that development and currently have that connected to EBS on-premise. And then in June is when we're set to go live with the rest of the full ERP suite for financials, full supply chain, maintenance, S&OP, including Logfire, including ICS for integration, and Oracle Analytics Cloud, actually. So pretty deep breadth of functionality.
Just about everything we got.
Pretty close.
That's
it's
great.
Okay, you keep making more, so it's...
We'll keep ahead of you. We'll keep ahead of you, Richard. Well, now to the elephant in the room, if you will. As obviously witnessed by this video and our discussions, you are a process manufacturer in the consumer goods space, which we both well know were not the initial target for our cloud manufacturing and supply chain capabilities. So there are gaps. How have you addressed those?
Yeah, so when we went through the process that I was talking about a year ago, looking at all of the features, functionality that existed in cloud, we did a pretty in-depth look at those requirements and what we needed relative to what was there in the product. And there were a couple small gaps, including we're not a heavy process manufacturing customer. We needed some small pieces of functionality around process. And rather than let that be the only thing or one of the only things that kept us from being able to move forward and being as somewhat progressive this way, we looked at what those gaps were, and again, we're developing some platform as a service functionality to do that for us short term. And we've worked closely with the development teams here at Oracle to make sure that as that functionality is released, we'll be able to migrate that to native functionality to where ultimately we'll be able to get rid of that as well.
Yeah. So we would work together to, number one, make sure that the existing web services that you needed to support that integration to a PaaS instance were there.
Correct.
And then you're also working with us as far as our plans for process manufacturing so that they fit the needs.
Correct.
Great. So I mean, is there any other advice? I guess maybe, once you complete this in June, are you going to sit back and take a rest, or what happens beyond that?
Tropical island, I like that.
Fiji.
There you go. So actually, June is just the first of our significant go-lives. So we'll bring our citrus business live, the Halos business you saw in the video, live in June, and then those other 6 ERPs that I mentioned earlier will be next. So we'll bring all of them together in one single global instance over the course of the next, it'll take another couple years to get everybody on.
Okay, very good. Well, I think
no rest for the weary.
I think we may have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions from the crowd, but cloud.
Nice.
All right. It was not intentional. But before we open it up, any other final thoughts, insights? As I said earlier, I'm sure there are a lot of people here, the 3,000 here, who are thinking, maybe where you were a year from now. So any final thoughts, insights that you might have?
No, I mean, I would recommend anybody do the same thing we did. Roll your sleeves up, get into the facts and the details. A lot of times people get mired down into assumptions about whether it's what functionality exists, doesn't exist. We did spend a lot of time and effort getting into the details around our requirements as well as the functionality that existed before we made what I think was a very well-educated decision.
All right, great. Okay. So, here's a question right here. Quick, 1 or 2 from the crowd.
Hi. So what are those, actually 2 quick questions. What are those gaps that you mentioned, just example, 1 or 2? And another question to Oracle, so what do you think, will you use this example in building functionality on cloud?
So it's the particular piece of functionality that I referenced to is around process manufacturing for multiple inputs and outputs. Not to answer Rick's question for him, but I know it's already on the roadmap because it was an important part of where we're going. Because we do want the functionality, and frankly, I don't want to maintain that code. And we'll make that transition as soon as that functionality becomes available. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, and just to answer the Oracle part of that, which is one of the reasons I really wanted to have Richard up here, is because he's a model of what we are doing and want to do with a lot of customers, and that the transformation will take a period of time. But we know we are going to get into, in Richard's case, process manufacturing. But what's imperative in the interim is that, 1, we have the right web services, the right REST services to support the ability to extend the software in the meantime. And then when we do come up with the functionality, work closely enough with Richard and his team such that he can throw that past stuff away and replace it with standard functionality. And that's the way, we're going to be working with customers forever that way. Maybe one more question?
Hi, so what keeps you up at night, and what's the most important lesson that you learned from this decision?
That was for you, right?
I doubt it.
Wow. Listen, it's as with any major implementation, there are always challenges from day to day. So what keeps me up at night is probably different from one night to the next. One night it's probably an issue dealing with our sales team. Another night it's dealing with our farming organization. I'm looking at one of our CFOs over here because he's very familiar with those challenges. And a lot of those are business process related. Other times there are challenges around the technology, and some of the stuff that we're doing is relatively new. And it isn't that there are no challenges there, but to Rick's point, we have a very good relationship to help work through those, and that has actually been very, very good for us.
All right, very good. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right.